Hey guys, this is Claudia here from the Bookkeeping Experts, back for more education with QuickBooks Online. Our purpose here is to help you understand your QuickBooks Online so that you can run your business more smoothly and know your point of reference. As many of you know, we talk a lot about the point reference. And basically what it is knowing where you are financially so you can set goals for the future or even for the present. It is very important to understand your finances when you run a business and to stay ahead of the competition. You will need to understand your expenses and your income. Where is the money coming from? Where is the money going to on the expenses? And how to maximize your earnings or your net profit. So today we're going to talk about how to reconcile your payroll with QuickBooks Online. I know that many of you have quite a challenge understanding and sometimes even wondering why should I reconcile my payroll. So we're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to give you some examples of why you should do that, and hopefully this will be helpful so you can run your business smoothly and get to your point of reference. Here we go. All right, so here is our slide, and let me maximize this a little. Okay, there it is. How to reconcile your QuickBooks payroll. And the reason why you need to reconcile your QuickBooks payroll. Okay, some of them, not all, is to make sure all transactions are categorized correctly. Okay, sometimes, maybe the wages are on the wrong place or taxes are under wages and things like that. So you want to make sure that everything is correct. Now, there are times when withholding will be with wages, and that's okay, but employer taxes should be separately. So one thing that we need to verify is that. To avoid missing any payroll liability, let's suppose you issue a payroll, but the employee never cash a check, so you have a liability. And you want to check. I know that nowadays, most of the payroll runs electronically, but just let's suppose that it's missing. So you want to make sure everything is there and accounted for. There are situations when a check needs to be voided because whatever reason. So you want to make sure you void that check before it's too late, because that if it is past the payroll, the date of the payroll, then you're gonna have to contact QuickBooks to make sure that you get that taken care of. All right, to make sure that every transaction is accounted for. Yeah, we talked about that before, right? Make sure that your 401k or all your liability, your tax liability, everything is there. Okay, to verify if payroll amounts are correct. That's an important one. So you want to make sure that you're not overpaying your employee, or maybe you made a mistake or underpaying or whatever it is. You want to make sure that all the amounts are correct. Are what's supposed to be, and to make sure that only active working employees are receiving payroll. That's kind of like a no-brainer, right? Yeah, but as many of you may know, there are payroll issues or employees that run payroll for people that are not there and put it on their own bank account. So that's a way to make sure that you have all your safety in place. Make sure that nothing like that is happening in your firm, right? So yeah, checks and balances. Yeah. Okay, what reports do you need to reconcile payroll in QuickBooks Online? You're gonna need 4 reports. But with obviously if you're running your payroll with another, like a third-party payroll such as ADP, Gusto, or whatever, they have a payroll summary plus tax liability as well. So you may have another 1 or 2, sometimes 3 reports, so that you can check all the details as well. With QuickBooks, you're gonna need the payroll summary, you're gonna need payroll tax liability and payroll tax payments, and the balance sheet with the payroll liability account. So you compare the balance you have in QuickBooks versus whatever it is on those reports. All right, so this is where you go under reports, and then you click on payroll, and you're gonna select the reports. The first report, which is the payroll summary, it's gonna have this information. Of course, there's more information here, but we can only show this: gross pay, pre-tax deduction, employee taxes, and net pay. All right. So now, obviously, we are not looking at the employer taxes, but the employer taxes will be the difference between employee taxes and pre-tax deductions. I'm sorry, no. Pre-tax deduction is just deductions for health. Sorry. Pre-tax deduction is your health insurance and things like that. Employee taxes is with your withholding. Here we do not have your employer tax. Okay, not on this report. All right, so payroll tax liability report. This one is gonna have everything you need to know. All right, so you're gonna have your federal taxes, all the taxes owed for the period. So you have the summary on the very top, and then the breakdown: Social Security employer. See, this is where you find your employer liability right there. Okay, you want to make sure that out of the 8052, you separate what is the employer liability versus the employee withholding. Okay, so here in this case, the employer is the $32.63, and the Medicare employer is $7.63. Then you have the federal unemployment. With this we don't have anything because of the amount, but FUTA, you should have it. If it is a larger amount, there is a limit. So QuickBooks already calculates those taxes for you, so that's kind of cool. You just have to make sure you make those payments. And finally, Florida unemployment tax. Once again, we didn't hit that limit in this payroll, so that's why there's nothing here. If not, there should have been a liability here, and that liability is for the employer, not for the employee. Okay, so this is an employer tax liability. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the payroll tax payments. Now, when we run the payroll tax payment, we are going to run for prior periods as well. Okay, prior and after periods, because obviously, if I'm running the payroll, let's say for May, the taxes is probably not going to be paid until maybe in the next month. And maybe it is quarterly, like some employer taxes. It's just quarterly, right? Not monthly. So you want to make sure, you want to make sure that the payments are made for each of the liabilities, and that the payments do match whatever you have on the liability report. Now, like I said, the liability report will be for a prior period than the payment itself, because the payment obviously happens after you acquire the liability. All right, next we have the balance sheet payroll liability account. So this is where you're gonna find out if everything in QuickBooks is correct, is matching with what the reports are saying. So you want to check your federal taxes, and this is the liability based on the tax liability report that we just had, not the tax payment, but the liability tax report. So you want to find out that the federal tax is correct, the federal unemployment is correct, and Florida unemployed, or whatever state you're in, and all the other liabilities, right? Okay. All right. Okay. How to reconcile. So you're going to run the payroll reports for 1 month or one pay period. So you're going to run the payroll summary for the same 1 month or 1 month period. Those two are the same period. And you're going to run the payroll tax liability for the same period. So all of those for the same one. Now, when you get to the payroll tax payment, this report is for after, like I was telling you, the period. So because those payments are not going to happen until sometime later and sometimes paid quarterly, right? So this is just to verify that those liabilities are being paid. And obviously, you will not be able to verify the last payroll most of the time because the most recent payroll is still going to be sitting there as a liability, not paid yet, not paid until the following period or month. Okay, let's go. Start with payroll summary. That's how you start. You're going to start comparing your payroll summary with the payroll liability and the balance sheet. And make sure that every transaction is there, especially the wages, make sure that everything. Now, the wages will be going into the profit and loss. So you can run the profit and loss as well to make sure all the wages are there, because the wages are going to run through an expense account since it's paid right away. Sometimes it will be under unpaid salaries, wages for a couple of days, but most of the time, it's paid within a couple of days or 3 days. So you're going to verify payroll liability and compare with the balance sheet payroll liability. Make sure that there is no liability older than it should. Now, I want to tell you this story. I had a client that that hired me to do a cleanup, and I am just reconciling. I reconcile all the accounts, all the bank accounts and everything. We get to the payroll. He ran the payroll through QuickBooks. I see a liability, a huge liability under his state employer tax liability. And lo and behold, that was not being processed because I think it could have been some kind of error with QuickBooks Payroll, but he was running payroll without the necessary information for the state unemployment documentation. It's because you have to apply for the state wherever you are for the unemployment taxes. He hasn't done that, and QuickBooks could not pay that liability and was sitting there for years. So with that being said, he contacted, and he was going to pay an absolutely huge amount of penalty because it was years. But luckily, he was able to negotiate, and they understood that he didn't know what he was doing before, and that things were, settled and fixed. But see how important it is to make sure, if you see that there is a liability that is older than it should be, if you're filing quarterly, if there is something that belongs to the prior quarter that was not paid, you want to make sure you verify, dig in and verify why that was not paid. If you can go into QuickBooks Payroll and verify, if click on the left hand side payroll, and then the reports, and then make sure that everything is correct. There is nothing missing, because usually you're going to receive an email. He was receiving email that taxes were being paid, but not that one. He received email that the taxes were not paid on that one, but he didn't quite understand. So there you go. That's the importance of reconciling and paying attention to those emails as well. Now, if you have a company, if you hire a company such as ADP or Gusto or Paychecks or whatever, they will take care of all the taxes for you for most payroll companies. So they'll pay everything for you, make sure all the documents are right. With QuickBooks, you also have that now. So I think that in the past there was a little bit of do-it-yourself that was not working pretty good, because people didn't understand that you needed to have certain applications with your state to be able to run payroll or pay your employees. So anyhow, when you do it through a third party, they'll be paying all the taxes, and then most of the time you don't even run any liability on the balance sheet. Everything will be on the profit and loss, all the expenses on the profit and loss. Okay, unless some of them do hold on to the liability and then pay it later. Yeah, there's a possibility here. Verify if the payroll tax payment for future date to make sure the liability has been paid. Yeah, I said that. Okay. All right, final steps here. Make sure that the payroll wages include the wages for all employees. Nobody's missing, that the wages are correct like we talked. Make sure to add the withholding taxes under wages or employee taxes to a account. You can put it under wages or you can put it under employee taxes, but it has to be employee taxes, okay? And make sure all employer liability is separate from withholding taxes. So usually it runs all together, but you want to make sure you do a journal entry to report the employer taxes separate from the employee taxes, withholding taxes. Because the employee taxes, part of your payroll expenses, part of the wages expenses, and the employer taxes is your liability as an employer. Okay, so you want to make sure that you get that done. All right. Okay, let me go back here. Yeah, I'm back. Okay, back. All right, so hopefully this was useful. We're going to talk in the future about third party, how to reconcile third party payroll directly on the profit and loss as well. It's a little different. It's quite different from reconciling QuickBooks Online payroll. Now, keep in mind when you run, like I said, when you run your payroll through QuickBooks, you want to make sure that all the liabilities are paid for and that you're up to date with everything and there's nothing missing in there, because that is very important. You do not want to be late on your employer taxes. That is a no-no for you. It's a huge liability. Don't want to go there, especially federal. Oh, no. Or estate taxes too. There's all kinds of penalties that you do not want to go there. So a lot of people ask, if you are a bookkeeper, accountant, do you want to run payroll for your customers? Well, it depends if you want to specialize in payroll, because payroll is a whole animal in itself. Taxes that gets updated, in a frequent basis. There's a lot of liability. You want to make sure that you file the documents correctly for your customers. And there's a lot of very good prices out there for you to hire a third-party payroll service to take care of all that for you, so you can have peace of mind, even for your clients, right? So I recommend just to, payroll, unless you're specialized in payroll, just leave it to a company that is specialized in payroll. It is less headache for you. There is a lot of reports that needs to be filed on a timely basis, and all kinds of liabilities if things are not done right. So with that being said, thanks for spending this time with me today. I absolutely love what I do, and I especially love this time that I got to spend with you, just sharing what I know, and hopefully helping you understand your business and run your QuickBooks Online easier. And if you're a bookkeeper, accountant, run your business more smoothly with your clients. That's my goal. I want to help you. And if you find this video useful, hey, share with your friends, with your coworkers, with your classmates, with the world. Put it out there. We would like to help as many people as possible. And also subscribe to our channel so you can be the first one receiving those updates. We like to record those videos weekly and bring all kinds of information that can help you out run your QuickBooks Online. So once again, thanks for being here. We hope to see you again next week. And until next time, keep on smiling.